I'm here today as the director of the California Brain Tumor Association, and we focus on prevention of primary brain tumors from wireless radiation because we have seen such an incredible increase in brain tumors, especially in younger people over the past decade, attributed to cell phone use or living near a cell tower. The California Department of Public Health, probably about 7 years ago, did their own research into cell phones and brain tumors, and they found that there was a problem, that cell phones were indeed causing gliomas, brain tumors. They then decided that they were going to write a document called Cell Phones and Health. Originally, it was intended for state employees only who had state-owned cell phones. Then they did more research of independent studies and industry-funded studies, and they realized the public needed to see this document, which is an excellent document with excellent safety tips for people who have concerns and should have concerns about cell phone use. The fact that the California Department of Public Health has refused to release this cell phone and health document, which is excellent, makes it harder for us to educate our legislators that SB 649 should not be happening, that wireless radiation is causing cancer, electrosensitivity, and many other health problems, not just for us, but for wildlife, for our planet. And it's all connected. It's the same radiation. If SB 649 were to pass, we would find wireless equipment, large poles with new 5G equipment, which is large. They call it small cells, but it's not small. It's large refrigerator-sized equipment in front of I've been told in front of every 5 or 6 homes in every neighborhood in California. And the people in these communities and our local government will have no say in that. The state is basically deregulating this.
A couple of years ago, the city of Berkeley passed an ordinance, which we wrote and lobbied about, that basically requires that every retail outlet that sells cell phones in the city of Berkeley post information or hands out information that's already mandated by the Federal Communications, the FCC, as everyone knows. So basically that consumers are never supposed to wear or use a cell phone directly against the torso, the body. You know, like women tuck them in a bra, people put them in their pockets. The FCC has warnings in all documents, user manuals in the phones that warn. The industry said they're advisements, but they're warnings about being overexposed to electromagnetic or radio frequency energy that could exceed the federal standards. So all they're doing is telling people what the FCC wants them to know.
There's a secret inside our phones.
Really?
Some would even call it a warning.
Where would I be able to find you?
It's a message that cell phone makers are required to share, but most have never seen it and can't even find it when they try.
Control center? General? I can't find it, I'm gonna be honest.
That's how it looks?
The message in my phone says, to reduce exposure to RF energy, use a hands-free option, such as speakerphone, to carry the phone at least 5 millimeters away from your body to ensure exposure levels remain at or below the as-tested levels. I'm in Washington, D.C. to see Deborah Davis. She's a toxicologist, senior epidemiologist. When I first met her about 10 years ago, she told me that the testing method doesn't at all take into effect the size of a child's brain.
You see here, this slide showing you the brain of an adult.
So this is where the cell
That is
phone would
correct.
sit, and this is the radiation that's absorbed?
Yes. This is the one we're most concerned about. This is the head of a 5-year-old.
She was a big part of the fight to get lead out of drinking water. She fought against tobacco, and now, for many years now, she's been fighting to tell people that they should be concerned about cell phones. When I first interviewed you many years ago, you were persuaded there was a problem. You're still persuaded.
Oh, more than ever, unfortunately.
Why?
Well, the science has progressed, without any question. We have more experimental data on animals. Unfortunately, we have more data on people.
How much more science is there now?
I'd say it's doubled since I first really became aware and wrote about this in 2007.
Among the recent research, a $25 million study on rats by the U.S. government, the largest they've ever done. The findings were released just last year.
It was set up to answer the question whether or not there was any effect on health from low levels of radiation like those from cell phones. The scientists running the study thought it would find nothing. They were astonished when they showed this increase in highly malignant, aggressive tumors of the brain and the heart.
Astonished because some rats were exposed to radiation levels below the safety limit that cell phones have to meet. The findings were deemed so important, those heading it wasted no time letting the regulators know. Canada was looped in too. But when we ask Health Canada about it, they say, while some argue this study provides conclusive evidence, there are numerous scientific questions to be addressed. Health Canada isn't the only one with questions. For many, it comes down to this. If cell phones are a problem, where are all the brain tumors in humans?
This is one of the worst tumors we'd ever seen in a guy who said he lived on his phone.
In Edmonton, neuro-oncologist Dr. Jay Esau recently helped launch a brain tumor registry
So as the tumor's growing, it's putting pressure on the skull.
to track what we're seeing in Canada. So you're looking for answers.
100%.
What are your suspicions?
I believe that we're going to see more and more studies that show a correlation between cell phone use and the incidence of brain tumors. There's no question that we are seeing more young people coming into clinic with brain tumors. And the question is why?
But your message is not reflected by, like, Health Canada.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
You know, I understand why, because the data that are out there are so controversial. And in Health Canada's position, they have to look at the data and they have to come to a conclusion. And that, truthfully, the data are inconclusive.
Why is there not more data?
Do you know why? I'll tell you, even in our own clinic, we've tried to keep track of this. And when we ask a patient about their cell phone use, we're asking them to remember. And that's just not reliable. And that's why it's important to get the message out now. We need to at least get young people and adults to start thinking about their use and doing things that potentially can help protect them.
Questions around cell phone safety have now spanned decades. As the science mounts on both sides, so do criticisms over how much we're being told.
Such information about health cannot become a fine print.
I do think that information should be made more available.
Why the concern?
It's constantly emitting microwave radiation, and that radiation, if it's right next to your body, gets into you, whether it's your breast or your pants pocket. The reality is, every millimeter closer to the head or body you keep a phone, you can get more radiation.
But what harm could that do?
We have known now for more than 10 years that men who keep phones in their pocket have lowered sperm count, they have poorer sperm quality.
Young women sometimes wear their phones in their bra.
Correct. This is an MRI that was shared with us by our colleague, Dr. John West, of a 21-year-old. These are tumors in her breast, the hot spot right here, right under where the phone was kept.
But how do you know that could be caused by a cell phone?
We don't know, but what we know is this. It's extraordinarily unusual for a young woman to have one breast cancer, to have 2, 3, or 4, and they all develop as separate tumors under the antenna of the phone. That's beyond coincidence.
For Davis, case reports like this are worrisome.
We think this is enough of a concern that we're telling people, please be aware of this.
This is why she argues phones should be tested the way we wear them. So what happens when they are? So the tests are all done.
Tests are all finished.
And
The number exceeded the limit. It went up significantly with each one of the phones.
they're saying that the testing is so safe that there's no way that we could be at home.
The system is out of date. It's testing something that's not relevant to how we use phones or to the ways that we know phones can affect our health.
Just keep it 15 millimeters away from your body.
Canadian groups have been urging Health Canada to reassess those safety limits too, since science now shows possible harm below the level that phones are tested for.
We're stuck in this quagmire of believing this science that's decades old.
Frank Clegg's the former president of Microsoft Canada. Now he heads a group advocating for safer use of technology.
There are dozens and dozens of studies that we presented to Health Canada that show harm at levels below Canada's guidelines.
He thought they were making headway when a couple of years ago the government agreed to review the issue. Over 200 studies were submitted by Clegg's group, research on humans and animals, suggesting potential harm, everything from behavior changes to DNA damage and sperm abnormalities, all at radiation levels below what phones are tested for. We took our questions to cancer epidemiologist Paul Demers.
The evidence that comes out, I believe, is still mixed.
Demers was asked to review the science on cell phones for Health Canada.
So what is your bottom line then? Are the way that we use cell phones now, are we safe?
Well, I believe we are. The fact is we don't have, at least when I looked at the evidence last, we don't have the evidence to say that there are adverse health effects. There are other scientists that I respect who are more convinced.
What do you do with your phone?
I keep it in my pants pocket, so it's handy. It hasn't concerned me to that level.
As for Health Canada's bottom line, they say the totality of the science does not support a link to harm. They add, even if a small child were exposed to cell phones 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, there would be no adverse health effects.
So how do you explain that?
Health Canada's track record is atrocious. How long did it take to figure out tobacco? So the fact that Health Canada is behind isn't news. The fact that they're not doing anything about it, to me, is unforgivable.
Clegg wants change, but for now says information should be out in the open so people can decide for themselves.
I think there's an opportunity for Canada to be among the leaders in the world, like Berkeley, California, to get the manufacturers' warnings out to say, look, be careful how you use the technology. There's a safe way to use it, and there's a potentially harmful way.
When I first started covering this, the manufacturers were saying there's no science showing any concern. Then it became there's no conclusive evidence. Now it seems the totality of science doesn't. The lingo's changing.
Yeah, the lingo's changing, but they can't make it all go away. We should not insist on proof that we have made people sick before taking steps to protect others.
While Health Canada says you shouldn't be concerned, they do provide tips in case you are.
Hi everyone, it is December 6, 20 studies mountains high that prove that electromagnetic frequencies, microwave frequencies, cause physiological, biological damage. So the results of this study, Dr. Gunnar Hauser and Sylvia Hauser's study, which was published in volume 32 of Reviews on Environmental Health. The name of the paper, Functional Brain MRI in Patients Complaining of Electrohypersensitivity After Long-Term Exposure to Electromagnetic Fields, which I will show you in a minute, and I will link to it. The online published paper includes x-rays of all patients in the study. They actually show MRIs, functional brain MRIs, which is different from x-rays, as far as I know. Okay, but it indicates the severity of electromagnetic hypersensitivity and shows graphically how it physically affects brain tissue. Electromagnetic fields are emitted by the following: smart products, appliances, services, any service or device that sends or receives voice, data, or graphics, pictures using microwave wireless technology, cell phones, iPhones, smartphones, smart meters, being retrofitted by electric, natural gas, and water utility companies, monitoring devices, baby monitors, wearable devices that track and record body data, Wi-Fi, homes, in-homes, schools, workplaces, cafes, or other public places providing it, such as doctors' offices and routers. So for all those electromagnetic hypersensitivity or sensitive patients who refuse AMI smart meters claiming electromagnetic hypersensitivity and have pro se lawsuits before their respective state public utility commissions agencies or administrative law courts, this 2017 study ought to refute the utility's medical and EMF RF experts who still believe in the Flat Earth Society theory when it comes to electromagnetic frequencies, radio frequencies, extremely low frequencies, and microwave-produced non-thermal radiation waves, adverse health effects that cause. Okay, I just read. Oh God, who still believe in the Flat Earth Society theory? All right, Catherine, don't you understand that those are fighting words? Oh God, get off that. All right, I'm getting nervous. All right, okay. Well, here, functional brain, this is the study. Patients complaining of electro-hypersensitivity after long-term exposure to electromagnetic fields. And you can read about this study. 10 adult patients with electromagnetic hypersensitivity underwent functional magnetic resonance imaging brain scans. All scans were abnormal, with abnormalities which were consistent and similar. So it is proposed that functional MRI brain scans be used as a diagnostic aid for determining whether or not a patient has electromagnetic hypersensitivity. Over the years, we have seen an increasing number of patients who have developed multi-system complaints after long-term repeated exposure to EMFs, electromagnetic fields. These complaints include headaches, intermittent cognitive and memory problems, intermittent disorientation, and also sensitivity to electromagnetic frequency exposure. It's hard, guys, because when you suffer these frequencies, and I know that a lot of you do, it's very hard because every day you're facing your own decline. Physically, mentally, spiritually even, emotionally, cognitively. So many of you are experiencing memory problems. So many are having difficulty writing. So many of you are identifying with my difficulty talking, pronouncing words. You can read all about the cases, the 10 cases, but these are the scans. And the damage that seems to be pretty consistent is with the default mode network, with hyperconnectivity of the anterior component in the also decrease of white matter tracts within the right frontal lobe, and finally decreased flow and or metabolism within bifrontal lobes. Doesn't sound too good, does it? These are the problems. Fragmented, hyperconnected, default mode network, right here, same here, same here, same here.